New Jersey South operations. I oversee, our sales, settlements, construction activities for Ryan Homes.
Okay, and Ryan Holmes will be the builder on
We will
this.
be the builder.
Thank you.
Pat, could you just do an overview of the exhibits as you want to present them, and discuss the high points of them, and then we'll take any questions from the board?
Do you mind?
I think that's fine, yeah.
So this is the first exhibit you see here, a overview of the entire site. These breakout boxes are to show each of the different buildings. So if you look here, you have the 7-unit building, which we correlate down on the map. This would be what the exterior facade will look like from the street. Same thing for what a 4-unit building would be down here. The 8-unit here, 6-unit here. So these are exactly what you would see as you drive through the community. Colors, textures, all that will match what you see here on this tour. There was kind of some questions about what the building would look like, how the colors would intermingle throughout the community. We talked with Scott, he gave some good recommendations on how to present, so we thought this would be a clear way for the board to understand what the streetscape will look like in the community. Anybody have any questions on what they see?
Counselor, was that marked exhibit for you?
We did submit that as a supplement to our application. Mr. Kingsbury, do you want us to mark each of these exhibits as we go through them?
Do you know what number we were up to on exhibits?
I don't have that in front of me, no, from the last one. Actually,
Start at B1 then?
Yeah, we can do that.
let me just check in the resolution real quick. We're at A3. This would be A3.
Okay.
I had a question about the color schemes when you're ready.
Yeah.
So are we to understand that the color schemes as laid out in these exhibits that you've just marked are fixed in stone, essentially?
Yes.
So if I came in to buy one of your houses and I wanted powder blue, you'd say no.
Correct.
You can, depending upon what building, we can do, you can take this one or the third one over or the fourth one over, but that's all we can do.
Yep. So this next one, I guess we'll label it A4.
Yeah, that's fine. A4 is good.
So this
Can't get it.
is just a kind of a more clear representation of the 7-unit building. This would be the front facade. This is what the rear facade would look like. In our meeting, Scott gave us some really nice recommendations for adding window wraps to give more rear feel to the back of the homes, and the side, elevations, the sides, incorporated towards the back side of the vehicles, trees forward, some architectural elements in the gable there as well, and then shutters and stone along the bottom, kind of give more curved feel on the sides and the rears. So this is what a 7-unit building would look like from the front, rear, and side. Also included the mean building height for Scott's recommendations, and then labeled the decks and patios as optional selections.
Mr. Taylor, this answered most of the questions that you and we had from the last meeting.
It does. I know Mr. McNee has a couple more, but we did, as Mr. Heinold indicated, we had a meeting, basically the applicant's team with the Ryan folks. took those other exhibits that we had several of, sort of combined them into this final presentation, did make a number of changes. The only thing I did want to note to the board, because I know there was some discussion about shutters on the back of the building.
Saw that.
With the new Ryan prototype, those windows are very close together, they have more windows, and some of them are very close to the edges of the building. So to try to squeeze shutters on there, they would be very narrow, which would not look appropriate. So one of the things we did discuss was using a chunkier window frame wrap around that, instead of just a very narrow trim, to try to create a little,
The appearance of,
a little better appearance of
Okay.
those windows, in lieu of those shutters.
okay, good, thank you.
So it looks like you, in some windows, you did shutters where you could, and where you couldn't, you used the window wrap.
On the rears, every window is wrapped, no shutters on the rear. The sides, yes, we incorporated the shutters where we had the space.
But on the fronts, you'll notice where there was room, shutters were included, and then in other areas, the thickened trim, which
I'm confused. This picture. I'm confused. Where's the front door?
Yes.
The back. Isn't that back? It's the side.
You have the option of the patio and/or the deck. If you put the deck on, the patio. If you have a deck that you would walk out on a little
This is the
Do you have steps?
step, that would be grassy,
Okay.
try to be
And the
grassy.
big front.
Yes.
Where's the driveway? Where's the-
If you have if you just have the patio, then it's just a patio. But then if you have the combined patio and deck, what's the potential of someone trying to screen in the patio?
I mean,
It's a good potential, right?
No,
It's a possibility. I mean, obviously, something like that, we could put a restriction in the HOA documents.
Right.
Or, you know, obviously, the zoning department, I think, would need to be part of an application.
Right, I mean-
The exterior like that, which
Yeah, because
obviously could not be
as
allowed.
soon as you screen it in, then somebody's gonna wanna close it.
Well, we're not going to allow that under the
We're not
HOA
gonna allow that,
documents.
right.
Right.
Yeah.
Screening, maybe? No, okay.
Will that be in the HOA doc?
Yes.
Okay, so ask him. Excuse me, I'm a little, maybe it's just me, but I'm a little confused with the side elevation.
Okay.
Where's the front door and the driveway? The side elevation.
Oh, they're not shown there. They just put.
Yeah, but how can you, isn't, in the middle there, is that the back? Or where
This would be
the,
the.
where the
front.
deck is in the front? I'm confused.
this should have been two different drawings.
This is the end of the building facing one another.
So that's not the actual layout.
That's-
They're not going to actually sit that way. It's just showing each side.
This would be the left.
As Scott said, it
side,
should have been
this would be
really
the right
two
side.
pictures, probably.
Okay, and you eliminated the driveway in the front?
Yeah, they're just not. the driveway's
Because it
not
looks like there's a
represented.
little back door in the front, and that's why I'm a little confused.
Front door in the front.
Yeah, that's actually,
No,
the
we're on
space in
site,
between
that happened.
should have been a white space,
Okay,
because those are actually the front, so there would be that little front porch and a driveway out front,
in the middle there.
in the middle. Yep.
Okay, all right.
I guess I have one more question that came to mind. What are you using for the siding finishes? I mean, you've got some stone facade, but then it looks like you've got, maybe, I don't know, is it aluminum, vinyl, hardy
All
board?
siding is vinyl,
It's all vinyl, whether it be vertical or horizontal?
correct.
Yeah, okay.
That's what a vinyl P111 looks like.
Yeah,
It'd be similar, like,
Yeah, and-
the appearance of a P111 but vinyl.
and what are you're using AZAC or something similar for the trim?
Yeah, window wraps would be the PVC window wrap.
All right.
I have a question for the board. Did anybody on the board have any other questions? Because I think this was the only thing that was being carried over.
Correct. That's correct.
So, right, correct? Okay. So, board members, do you have any questions of the applicant? Professionals, Mrs. Newcomb? No? Mr. Taylor?
No, the only thing, and I should have mentioned this before, if we could just get the 4 color schemes added when this gets submitted for permits, so the actual color names are labeled, so when they go to get built, you make sure it is exactly the same. Okay.
Mr. Miller, you have any questions? Mr. Miller? Marty? Yeah, no? No. Hey, having none, turn it over for public comment. Is there anybody here who would like to make a comment on this application and this application only? Please raise your hand. And do we have folks online?
We do.
Okay, seeing no hands in the audience, we'll turn it over to folks online. Oh, wait, you do have one? Okay, just, excuse me, just hold on one second, okay? Online, any questions? Okay, ma'am, you want to step forward, please? Wait, before you start, come on up to the podium. We do this very organized, okay? And don't get nervous. Mr. Kingsbury will swear you in. We need your name and address.
Swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, swear. Geraldine Dunkley, I live in 101 Weatherhill Court. Okay. Just for the drawing, I couldn't see it in the back. Am I able to see like the parking lot, the entrance, or is that the only thing that's being presented today?
So the entrance to the community would be here. These are overflow parking areas, and then these boxes here in front of the homes are the driveway locations.
Being that I live right across the street where this is going to be built, what's the, I guess, the distance from the street to the structure?
You're talking about the driveway depth?
Yeah.
I believe they're a minimum of 25 feet, depending on location.
And there's only the one entrance?
For each home? Are you talking about the entrance?
Yeah, the main entrance.
Yes, one entrance.
Okay.
And that's also the exit, correct?
Am I able to take pictures after for neighbors that weren't able to join?
I mean,
Yeah.
that'd be up there.
Oh, okay. Fine. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any more public comments on this application? Hearing none, I'll turn it back over to the board. What's your pleasure on this application?
Mr. Chairman, where are we? We're at final.
Yeah, so we are here for final approval, subdivision approval and site plan approval. Mr. Kingsbury, per the discussion last month, was kind enough to draft a resolution that's on your agenda later that
Right.
sets forth the relief that we're obtaining tonight. And so I think at this time, there's no special additional conditions or changes that I'm aware of to what was circulated by Mr. Kingsbury in advance of the meeting.
Does this resolution have a number?
Yes.
It's easier to refer to it by number.
17, 2023-17.
Well, I'll move to approve 2023-17.
Well, just,
No, not the resolution.
Give them the plans first.
I think that, the resolution is a separate stuff.
Right, yeah,
After you approve,
after approving the application.
All right, we'll do it in two motions.
Yep. Yeah, this is just for the final subdivision approval.
All right.
what you're voting on is final major subdivision approval on individual lot site plan approved for the townhouse.
What's that, case 18-04C? Okay.
And the single-family lots too, right?
What did we say? We're making final site plan
Major subdivision approval
and major subdivision approval.
and for 45 townhouses and single lot site plan approval for the single.
That's right, because we have the 4 single lots out front, don't we? Okay, so that's my motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, any questions on the motion? Hearing none, may I have a roll call, please?
Mr. McKay?
Yes.
Mayor Klaus?
Yes.
Mrs. Kelly?
Yes.
Mrs. Gilmore?
Yes.
Mr. Tricoci?
Yes.
Mrs. Baggio?
Yes.
Mrs. Tyndall?
Yes.
Ms. Costco?
Yes.
And Mr. Kroll-Pfeiffer?
Yes.
Thank you very much for your
Thanks,
time again
Counselor.
this
Good
evening.
luck with
Take
it
care.
all.
Probably can't hear this.
Yeah, Leila?
Yep.
You're out. You want us to get you guys? You should have stayed. Huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you, Mr. Klaus, are you going to stay?
No, I must leave.
Okay. Just want to know who we have to look.
That's right.
Next case is 23-06, JDEB Marne Highway LLC. Attorney Vincent D'Elia. Counselor? Hi there. Could I ask, just to try to save some time, if you have all your proposed witnesses come forward, get them all sworn in?
Get them all sworn in, yeah, that's exactly where I was going.
Pardon?
Exactly where I was going. Get them all sworn in at once.
Okay, good.
We ready?
Yes.
Guys,
All right, gentlemen. I swear or affirm that the testimony you give back is the truth, full truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Do you have all the names?
Do you want to have them identify each one? Mike, why don't you go first?
Michael Miller, 212 Lawrence Lane, Delran, New Jersey.
And what do you, in what capacity are you here today?
I am here as the marketing representative, real estate broker.
Thank you.
Spell your last name, please.
Yes, Miller.
Yes, good evening. My name is John Helbig. That's Helbig. My address is 106 East Dawes, Dawes, Dawes Avenue in Summers Point, New Jersey. And I'm a professional planner.
Good evening. My name is Jeff Livingston, 7 Churchill Street, West Hampton, New Jersey. I am the applicant.
Bill Nicholson, site engineer. Thank you.
Kyle Spahn, also site engineer. It's S-P-O-H-N.
What's your first name?
Kyle?
Okay, thank you, Counselor.
Mr. D'Elia, before you start, I'm just going to ask you a question that hopefully you'll then be able to weave into your questions of the witnesses. Can you have whoever has personal knowledge tell us how long these 2 facilities have been shut down, closed, not operating? The 2 facilities, in my mind, would be the gas station on the Marne Highway, and then everything that's behind the gas station, the warehouse.
let me just clarify one thing. I made a mistake in the application, and in my narrative that I submitted at Mr. Taylor's request, I took responsibility for that mistake. It's not a gas station. It's a service station. It's not going to be any pumps. There's not going to be gas served there and what have you. So I I understand we call it a gas station, but it's not a gas station.
Yeah.
It's a service station.
Because in its last iteration or life, it was a gas station and
Correct.
auto repair bay.
Water maintenance, yeah, kind of thing, and the property behind it. Mr. Miller was prepared to give you the whole history of the site, but I want to answer your question first.
Well, I don't mean to break up your presentation, but at some point.
Yeah, we're going to give that time.
That's an important question to me.
Absolutely, absolutely, I understand completely. Good evening, I am Vincent D'Elia, I represent the applicant. Good evening to all of you. This is our application. I just want to say a few words to set the stage because Tom has already kind of touched on the fact that there are a number of issues and side issues. We have this in contemplation of the law. Every piece of property is unique. This piece of property sets a new standard for unique as far as I'm concerned. When I look at it, we also have a unique applicant in this case, and they're probably the only two puzzle pieces that are ever going to fit on this site. First of all, it's zoned residential. Property, as you all know, was used for petroleum storage and distribution and what have you. Hazardous waste has been found on the site. It needs remediation. The standards for remediating a residential site are dramatically more stringent than for a commercial or industrial use. We've already had one housing developer take a look at this, and when he realized the parameters of the environmental issues, realized that there was no way that he could make it work. For that reason, like I say, although it's zoned residential, obviously you make your own decisions, but to me, this will never be developed as residential. In addition, the owner of this property is an estate. That estate, to my knowledge, is currently insolvent. The likelihood of them ever being able to do anything with the site in terms of environmental remediation is impossible to see. I've been advised that there are other sites in the township where property owners had environmental issues and eventually defaulted on real estate taxes in the town, and they've now become a burden to the township. This piece of property has the potential to follow that path, but for the fact that we have an applicant who can fit into the pieces that are there. The three pieces being the residence, the service station, as Mr. McKay just referred, property in the back, which has been an intense environmental industrial use. We're prepared to replace that with a very light industrial, primarily warehouse use that warehouses restaurant equipment, repairs restaurant equipment, and what have you. This buyer, should he get his approvals and move forward with this, is going to be responsible for doing the cleanup. The property is run down. It's in need of a freshening up. This applicant is going to do that as well. And I just wanted to start that off as my opening statement, because you're going to see how I'm going to try to fit those two pieces together and try to essentially get you to understand my feeling that as a practical matter, this will never be residential despite its zoning. With that, I wanted to start with Mike Miller. He's a real estate broker. He's very familiar with the site, and I want him to give you the history, answer Mr. McKay's question, and we can go from there. Mike, you're under oath, and why don't you tell us how you get involved in this property, and can you tell me the history of it as best you can?
Yes, thank you, Mr. D'Elia. My name is Mike Miller. I share a brother by a different mother over here with Mr. Miller. And I have been a real estate broker for 44 years, specializing primarily in commercial property. The way I have got involved in this property was that there was another real estate representative who had met with the estate representative, Ms. White, and understood the complexity of this property and how there were many, many issues with it. That company, probably being smarter than me 5 years ago or 6 years ago, deferred and asked me if I would represent the property, and I chose to do so. And I say it in that fashion because as I got further into the aspects of this property, a lot of things with the contamination issue that exists on the property, the mixed uses that are on the property, the zoning issue that exists that we're here to address tonight. Much of it said, this is a lot of work, and it's going to take a lot of people wanting to accomplish a good ending. I became acquainted with this property probably back in the early 70s when I was in a different line of work as a financial planner. And I met Mr. Wayne Rife. I was acquainted with him for a number of years when they had their fuel oil operation that was run by the Rife family. This, at the time, had the operations that were on the, or items that were on the property was the family homestead, the house that you see as you ride down the Marne Highway. What was at the time, I believe it was a Golf's gas station, was the banner that was out there, which was a retail service station, and as back in those days, everything was done there. Got lube oil, stop and got your gas, and it was a community focal point for that. Also, Mr. Rife was well-known throughout the area, not only in Haynesport, throughout most of Burlington County, as one of the primary fuel oil supplier to residences and the commercial industrial buildings that were out there. And it continued this way for many years until his passing. At that time, other family members were involved in the operation of that, and as time went on, that diminished and ceased in that fashion. I got involved, as I said, in the property in 2018. At the time I got involved with it, pretty much all the operations had, as far as the fuel oil operation, had been ceased. The garage facility, service center, gas station had pretty much ceased the gas dispensing operation and then became a repair shop. And there were a couple of local people who rented that facility and conducted their operation during that period of time. One of them since had moved down the road down to Azalea's breakfast place. I'll call it the breakfast place, breakfast and lunch place. And at that point, it ceased its operation.
Cipolloni's Garage?
I'm sorry?
Cipolloni's Garage?
Yes, not Cipolloni's, the other gentleman.
Ron Capseta.
Yeah, Cipollone is the other guy right next door. And so after that, that was the last operation in the service garage area. The home was rented up until about, maybe about 18 months ago. There was a tenant in there, and it was a continuous use with the tenant occupying that. The additional buildings were utilized by family members. One of them uses the upper level of the building, which will be addressed, of one of the buildings, for his train collection. He has his hobby with trains, and he has the whole second floor of the one building. I don't remember which number it is right now, but that's where he goes, has his hobby, and enjoys himself. One of the other buildings was used by one of the family members in conjunction with the business that he ran and runs. So there's been continuous activity on the property ever since they ceased actually dispensing fuel from the site. The contamination issue was one of acknowledged back in probably 2015, and an LSRP was engaged. Wells were, all the efforts were undertaken at the time with the LSRP. The LSRP at the time had engaged a law firm, one of the regional law firms to represent them. They went through the process and they were moving forward with that. So monitoring wells were placed and the activity of cleanup had begun, or remediation had begun. As time went along, when I got involved, there was a change in both the environmental representation, the environmental firm representation, wherein we engaged Active Environmental from Mount Holly to further the effort and bring it to a conclusion. Also, we retained local counsel in conjunction with that. That process was continuing on, and unfortunately, the gentleman who was our LSRP at Active suffered a major health issue and could no longer continue that. Then some other activities took place with Active, and we then looked to acquire, I say we because I got more involved than I thought as a real estate person. And I was sort of ushering the direction of this activity, hopefully bringing it to a conclusion. And I don't want to seem like I'm writing a book here for you, but it's been a long story. So we, at that particular point, with what amounted to no income coming in, the estate was depleting the resources that it had to pay people. And people don't like to work unless they're getting paid. So I was able to secure a contract of sale for the property. It was a organization that did affordable housing. And we came and had discussions with the staff here about doing affordable housing in their multifamily dwellings. Unfortunately, I say unfortunately, but under state law, and the engineer and the attorney can address this far better than I, but there are two levels of remediation that is done for a property, one to meet a residential subsequent use and one for a commercial use. As the residential developer got into it, saw the cost of what was going to have to be involved in getting the property to a conclusion, they bailed on it. Thereafter, I get calls, I'll be honest with you, 3 or 4 a week. And generally speaking, they're from people with a trucking company. It might be a dump truck company, it might be a tractor trailer, somebody that wants to use it as a trucking operation center. I guess in looking at that, is that the highest and best use for it? That's not for me to determine. The highest and best use for it is for you to determine as the board. But I felt that that was not the highest and best use in the marking of it. And as time went on, I was able to secure an interest from Mr. Livingston, and it just so happened that Mr. Livingston was looking to move from Pennsylvania to New Jersey, and he had had exposure to cleanups in a property that he had previously bought, and he understood, so to speak, what he was getting into. And in doing that, he also understood the cost and procedurally what had to be done. So to me, he was an ideal candidate because he knew what it was, knew how to do it, correct it, and had the financial wherewithal to do it. And that sort of brought us to where we are here tonight, in that this property, as I say, I've been doing this for a long time, and I know that municipalities have had difficulties with properties that they have had to undertake on their own. And this municipality is not an exception to that rule. There are, that once you get into a property that's contaminated and no money, where does it fall back to? Whatever governmental agency will pick it up. And I've seen that in, as I say, throughout the county and throughout different municipalities. So when, I guess it comes down, if you can get the right person, get the right need, it might not end up being the ideally preferred use, but it's a use that it will benefit not only Mr. Livingston, but in my opinion, it'll also benefit the community and allow it to go forward. I would say that this is something that should be considered positively.
I know you're not an engineer or a scientist, but can you describe to us, generally speaking, the nature of the contamination on the site?
Yes, it's a benzene residue contamination. Now, benzene is a product, and again, I'm not an engineer, and I'm not a petrochemical scientist, but...
My question covered you on that point.
Okay, very good. And on the basis of that, it was as best it's been explained to me in many meetings, this was a residual of a leaking tank that leaked a gasoline product and basically went to a level of groundwater, which further complicates things in a cleanup situation because you have to deal with the groundwater issue.
Do you know if that once leaking tank is still there?
I would, the documents that I've seen says no. They are not there. They have been removed.
Were these underground tanks?
These were underground tanks, correct.
You're saying there's more than one?
I don't know how many leaked, but there were multiple tanks on the premises that were removed.
Right. And your belief is they've been removed?
That is correct.
All right.
I can see, well, they're not there physically now, so I would have to say, yes, they had been removed. But I did not physically see the removal.
Okay. How far has the contamination spread from the tank locations?
I would have to defer on that and say there is the potential, I've been told, there's the potential for some off-premises migration. And that was part of what the LSRPs were telling us, that they would like to continue the monitoring via the wells that are there. And of the LSRPs, of the three, I've dealt with two of them, and in the two of them, one told me it didn't have to be done, the other one told me it had to be done, and as I understand the role of the LSRP, it's to ascertain what work has to be done. And as I say, I've had one that told me it hadn't gone beyond it, and another one said it had, and they wanted to do another well. So it's inconclusive as far as I'm concerned.
When you say hadn't gone beyond it, you mean the property line?
The property dimension, boundaries, correct.
Right, okay. And where does the remediation, I realize it hasn't proceeded any further from in recent time, but where does it stand? There were wells drilled to determine the spread.
That is correct. There are monitoring wells on the property, and I will add this to what I was saying. There is an actual monitoring well. There are two that are off the property already. And again, I can't address the current situation as to what has happened with the migration or the lack of migration to those wells that are off the property. But the last time they were checked, there was, and I don't have the document in front of me, but there was some migration where there was a suggestion by one of the LSRPs that an additional well be put further onto an outbound property or an outside property.
All right. If you're not able to address this, just tell me. But the council was referring to the estate being the present owner of the property, essentially, and that estate is either insolvent or near insolvent. You sort of hinted at some estate expenses during your speech. Do you know, are you prepared to offer testimony about the financial viability of the estate, the wherewithal that they have or don't have?
I have not seen financial documents. The only thing I can say is that I know there is no income flow into the property. There was a deposit advanced by Mr. Livingston that is a forfeitable deposit, which he has acquiesced to allow some of those monies to be continued at his peril to continue the work on the property.
So as we sit here today, is anybody checking the monitoring wells?
As of right this moment, the LSRP status indeterminate. There's negotiations going on right now with Mr. Livingston and with hopefully the party that will be his LSRP to carry this to conclusion.
All right, one final area. If remediation has to be done, can you describe to us, at least in general layman's terms, what that remediation would consist of?
The reason I'm hesitating is because every time you talk to an LSRP, you get a different opinion. And I can only tell you what I've been told at this particular point. With the active LSRP that we had engaged, it was that the ratios, the numbers were diminishing back to acceptable levels, and that we would only have a period of maybe 18 months to resolution. That's what we were hoping for when we were working with them. The party that took over from the gentleman who had the health issue then told us that, no, he needed 2 more wells to determine whether or not there was a continued spread. That then took it to a different level. And this was the air contamination that had to do with the tanks that had been leaking. When you bring an LSRP in, and this is, I'm saying this is my experience in having done with other properties, each one of them has a different view of the property. And until they get the hard science that says, okay, here's your readings and here's the established what it is, everything is trial and error. And all you're doing is putting out money and money and money until you get to that point that they're satisfied that they're going to put their name to it and sign off that will be acceptable to the state of New Jersey. And so I guess what I'm saying is I can't tell you any more than that we were progressing on a path. We had a path, and we thought it was, even before Mr. Livingston got involved, was such that we could bring it to a conclusion and get the property approved by DEP and not have to continue the way in which it's continuing. And to be very honest with you, it's an unknown right now, because you put 3 LSRPs in a room, you're going to have 3 different opinions.
Other than the benzene contamination that you've just talked about, are you aware of any other type of contamination on the property?
As of this point, nothing has been ascertained, so no, I'm not aware of any other on there. Could there be? Yes, there's been talk of different things. One is potential soils that may need to be remediated.
Thank you, I was getting to that, but you're ahead of me.
Yes, there may be some soils, but it hasn't been ascertained. And one thing, as I say, we've had estimates right now of anywhere from At one point, we were like $90,000. Then we've also had estimates as high as $600,000 to $700,000.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. Miller, before you, I'm over here.
Yeah.
Sorry. Mr. McLaughlin, one of the alternates on our board, has a question for you.
Just trying to set the stage. Isn't somebody operating on that property right now?
There is an activity on there. We have, actually, it's kind of a storage operation and also the operation of, that's a continuing operation, which is a family member who's run his business out of there long-term.
But this applicant's not conducting any business of any sort?
Uh,
Location?
The best way I can answer that is that if he's...
The applicant can answer
Yeah,
that.
I think he can
He'll give you
better.
the whole-
Yeah, I'd like to try to, just to set the stage. And the other thing that I wanted to ask, are you sure you're not speaking of the elevated tanks that might have been leaking, as opposed to underground tanks? The above-ground tanks have been removed, but I never saw any digging going on. I'm not there all the time.
Yeah,
You know, I've been
and you
there.
do drive by, and I understand. If you drove past the place and you would look at the service station,
Right.
to the left of the service station, between the house, was the area where the tanks, the underground tanks were. And you'll see that that's a disturbed area. As I know it, there was no issue with the above-ground tanks as far as any action. There's no reportable action at DEP that there was ever any leakage.
Yeah, I'd just like to further set the stage about what activity's taking place on there now, if the owner or the applicant would address that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Chairman,
You,
you got a question?
no, I was going to ask you a question. Is
Okay,
it-
I got one for him.
Okay.
He made a statement that the agreement between the applicant and the owner had a deposit that was forfeitable. Wasn't that deposit non-refundable?
That's correct.
Okay, and the reason it was not refundable is because the owner needed to pay some critical bills and he didn't have the money.
That is correct.
Okay. You got a question?
Like maybe the property taxes that are due Hainsport were paid
Yeah,
out of that?
yeah.
Yeah, okay,
I
good.
mean,
My question is,
you done with Mike?
yes,
Okay, take it.
thank you, Mr. Miller. Is there anybody in the audience that's a representative of the estate that you know of?
We didn't bring anyone from the
Okay, no,
estate.
just curious, because we had an application one time where we were asking a whole bunch of questions, and at the end of the meeting, we found out that there was somebody in the audience that could have answered the questions.
Okay.
So that's why I'm asking. Okay, so to your knowledge, there's nobody here?
I'm unaware.
Okay, carry on.
I wouldn't know if they were.
Okay.
Mr. Lay,
Next.
are you able to, with any of your witnesses, to give better information, not suggesting that Mr. Miller's wasn't okay, but he didn't have firsthand knowledge, but you raised the insolvency, the estate insolvency issue. Anybody prepared to offer testimony about that?
The applicant may be able to. I only know from negotiating the agreement of sale and talking with the other attorney.
I understand.
And, you know,
I'm not asking you to testify about that.
No, I'm not going to.
You can't testify.
Yeah, no, but there were representations made that led to certain conclusions that I felt comfortable presenting.
I understand.
Okay. Jeff Livingston is next. Jeff Livingston is a representative of the applicant, what I want Jeff to do is, we've talked to you about the existing conditions and the problems with the site and what have you. Why this site is unattractive to any residential development, but was very attractive to Jeff for what he does. So, Jeff, give them a little background on how you got into the business you're in now and what your plans for the property ultimately are and how you intend to use it.
Could I ask a question before you answered that?
Sure.
When Mr. Daly just started to introduce you, you said you're representing the applicant.
No,
When you were sworn in, okay.
He's testifying under oath. He is the managing member of the LLC that's the applicant.
Okay. You said representing, and then he said he was the applicant. I just wanted to clarify that. We're good. We're good. Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Livingston.
Yes. The building I'm planning on using, planning on using the building as a restaurant equipment supply, and plan on doing reconditioning and rebuilding of the restaurant equipment today. I've been doing it for about 30 years. Been in the Philadelphia area for about a little bit over 30 years, actually. What I do is I buy, I used to be a Domino's Pizza franchisee, and from 1989 to 1996. In those years, there was never any other alternatives from a equipment outlets. For example, you'd only have to buy new. There was no other alternative. So I found a niche and capitalized on it. I started buying and selling restaurant equipment. In that particular case, was franchise equipment, and I exponentially grew into a 35,000 square foot warehouse in Bristol, PA, which I since sold, but moved to Norristown, Pennsylvania, then to Pottstown, Pennsylvania, and ultimately, my ultimate plan is to move here for my primary location here in Hanesburg. That's pretty much a gist of what I, the location is ideal for what I'm using it for, especially the location from a proximity. There's about 50,000 restaurants within a 5 mile, I'm sorry, a 5 hour drive. There's New York City, you can be in 2 hours, less than 2 hours. So the proximity wise, it's ideal. I really, really like the location, and I know that it's going to be ideal for my application. I have been downsizing, so I'm focusing mostly on just ovens and mixers. So that's pretty much what I do.
So what structure on the property, and I know there's a couple, including a house, would be used for this manufacturing process?
The large 6,000, I'm sorry?
Would you call it manufacturing, or would you call it repair, or what would you call it?
Yeah, I mean, they're interrupted.
Storage.
Hold on. We're focused on manufacturing. It's a repair and a repair and a resale.
Yeah.
It's a repair and a warehouse use.
Repair, storage, and
Yes.
and resale?
Yeah.
Okay.
Restaurant equipment, mostly pizza.
All right, let's have the questions come from the bench.
Sorry.
Not the audience.
But to answer your question, the large 6,000 square foot building, number 3 on the layout, as well as 4. I'm using these for my staging and storage and warehousing. I only need about 1,000 feet for the reconditioning that we have, so it's not anything.
So where did you say 3 was? 3 is the big building?
3 is the large building.
And 4 is which of the small buildings?
You're right, it's by the 4 containers. It's listed on.
All right, I'm looking at a proposed plan, so not an actual plan, so. But on the proposed plan, point to
3 and 4, which is like a 2-part block.
Oh, I see, it's got the triangle with the 4 in the middle of it.
Yes, exactly.
So that's building 4.
And the overstock, because I have very large equipment, very, very large equipment. The overstock is going to be stored in these containers and potentially 1 or 2 of the road refrigerators. I used to ship all over the world, I'm still doing it. So what I normally will do is have one particular trailer that would be staged, and I'd be loading it, and it takes it's taken as much as 14, 15 months to fully fill it, and I ship it out and ship it internationally.
And so under your proposal, what is the house to be used for?
It'll be used for cash flow. Obviously, I'm gonna need
Excuse me?
It's a residence, yeah, yes. Yeah, it's gonna be rented, it'll be rented house, as well as the service station, right beside it.
What was the last part, Mr. Livingston? I'm up here. I heard you say that existing residents will be rented out, but then you said something about another building?
Yes, the service station, which is the number 2.
Yeah.
On Martin Highway.
And what's that going to be used for?
It's going to be used as a service center. I'm using it, I want to rent it out and lease it for
Repairs, auto repairs. And so that service station is simply being used as a cash generation project, as is the rental house.
Yes.
Neither one of them are involved in, apparently, as I hear you, would be involved in any way in the primary use of the property, being your repair, remanufacturing process.
It will not be used for office space or any of that.
Mr. Livingston, will you be also leasing building number 3?
No, I will not be.
Okay, because,
Utilizing that whole building for my business.
all right, Mr. Helbig's letter dated September 21st states that building 3, proposed commercial kitchen fixture repair, it says, is expected that JDEP would be leasing the building to PEI Services or their affiliates who would employ plus or minus 3 full-time employees, and the facility would operate on a standard 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. operational schedule for fabrication and logistics works.
JDEP would be selling, or would be leasing it to PEI Services, which is my restaurant business.
Okay, so that's you?
Yes.
Okay.
And what, other than the obvious cash generation function that reopening the service station might have, is there any other reason to keep that building?
I never really thought about it, but it just said a cash flow opportunity.
And what do you propose to do about the rest of, I'll use a technical word, stuff that's on that property? Like there's a large tank out behind the service station, for example. There may be other tanks. I didn't go on the property, but
All those particular tanks will be removed. I actually have somebody that wants them, but I completely stepped back and ceased those particular removals until everything comes to light.
And I'm not sure that this plan that you have up, the present exhibit, is that a theoretical sketch, or is it intended to be what you actually propose to do, or is it for discussion purposes?
If I may
Yes.
answer that myself, Mr. McKay. We are here for the variances. We know that we can't do anything without also getting a site plan approved. Getting all the details of the site plan, we wanted to make sure we knew what the board was willing or not willing to do before we incurred that expense to put together the detail of the site plan. We believe, well, I know if you approve this, you're going to make it contingent on site plan approval. And one of the problems I've always had when I came in asking for variances subject to a site plan is I'm really not sure where you draw the line. For example, Mr. Taylor raises some good points about parking and turning radiuses and what have you, we have to convince you, and you have to be satisfied that all that meets your ordinance and all that actually works and is safe and is fair. So I would say you make that call and you make the variances subject to a site plan approval.
Well, let me continue, because I want to ask Mr. Livingston a few other.
Sure.
Well, a few other factual questions. The building number 3, which is your principal repair, can I use the phrase remanufacturing? Is that what?
No.
What do you do then? Well, how do you describe what you do?
Break down the ovens and basically rebuild them from a component standpoint. The carcass, it'd be like an analogy of a car, taking the engine, the transmission, the tires, all the suspension, and putting all brand new stuff in it. So you have the carcass, I rebuild the carcass.
Do these, you talked about mixers and ovens, and do these come in on pallets, or how do they get delivered?
Yeah, they'd be coming on pallets or loose, depending on if I took them out to be loose. Just, I have modified car trailers that I drop the gate, roll it right out on dollies,
So you'd be buying used equipment here and there where you can,
yes.
Correct? And then you'd be bringing it to the site and storing it until you were ready to work on it or had a buyer for it, correct?
Yes.
And then, so it'd have to be stored someplace, and then you'd be working on it to rebuild it, refurbish it, whatever term you want to use.
Yes.
And then potentially you'd have to continue to store it until you had a buyer or a sufficient number of units to fill a container.
Yeah, for my international customers, yes.
Okay. So there's two types of storage. There's finished goods storage, and there's storage for
Long-term staging, I would probably say, more staging than the actual, it's storage, but it's just, it's not gonna move. Where some of them would be stored where as I need them, I grab them.
I understand. How big is the manufacturing, or you don't like my word, the rebuilding, repair process going to last?
I'm sorry, what was the?
How long does it take to repair or rehabilitate one of these?
From ground zero, approximately 16 hours.
Okay, and that's going to be done in building 3?
Yes.
And I don't know anything about the construction of that building, whether it's insulated or whether it needs to be repaired itself in order to do the work you want. Have you sized up the structure of that building?
Yes, yes. It's a block building. It's got a concrete floor. That's all I need. It's not anything that, what I do is, as long as I have lights, concrete floor, and electricity, I'm fine. I don't need anything real special.
So how many employees would you expect this facility would hold when it's up and running?
This facility I wouldn't be any more than 5 I would grow out of this building.
And what about noise generated for the repair work that's done?
Well, the only thing you'd probably hear would be forklifts on occasion, maybe some very, very minimal noise. Because I'm not doing any major work on it. If you changed, a light bulb, I realize light bulb is probably not the best analogy. It's just taking components out, putting a component in. There's no real noise. Forklifts and trucks, coming in and out, that would probably be the only real actual noise.
And I get the sense from your application, and so you can correct me if I'm mistaken, that you're also proposing sort of general storage, outside storage on the property for vehicles, maybe boats. There's a boat there now, sitting there, a big speedboat. It's as big as a tractor trailer. And maybe even storage in sea boxes that are, and there's a number of those, or maybe they're tractor trailers, I don't know, but there's a number of them sitting on the property. Is that a storage business going to also be included on the property under your proposal?
Yes. I see that Tom's here, which is, he actually is the owner of the speedboat you've seen. According to the agreement of sale, we're going to allow him a 50 by 90 open area where he can park his dump truck and some of his other personal pieces of equipment. That is on the outside of the property. Inside the fence, this plan is going to be pretty close to our site development, but the containers that I have, right now, there's 2 containers that are dropped on the property now. One's a trailer, 2 are containers. They'll be relocated to this location for, if we get approval for them. But all the other logistical trailers, I call them, the smaller trailers, are usually used for my transfer equipment. The small ones, things that are less than 20 feet.
All right. Now, let me get to the final issue that I have, unless I think of something else a little later. And that is, take it by piece. When was the gas station, or what was the gas station, last utilized for any commercial purpose?
I would have to refer that
Do-
to Mike.
No, you're going to get a chance.
Approximately 3 years ago, somewhere, 5 years ago, 3 to 5.
I'd say anywhere between 5 and 8.
Yeah, it was 5, because it was.
And that's when Mr. Copsetta was last there.
Yeah.
It says 2015.
All right, same question for Building 3.
When was it last used?
When was it last used for any commercial purposes?
I think it's been used consistently since I was under agreement. It's been used for storage.
Before you had it under agreement,
Yes.
when was it last used, is Tom's question.
When was it last used?
As far as use of it was probably as a sort of admin office by the estate in conjunction with the closure of the business. And I would say that that's been 5 years plus, somewhere through. Again, it was just paying bills and stuff that had to do with the estate. And then storage of some family stuff.
Where are the trains? What building are the trains?
Number 2.
2
Building number 4.
or 4?
On the mezzanine, yeah, the mezzanine.
Right, and the second floor of Building 4, the mezzanine of Building 4. All right, right now, those are the only questions I have.
Clarify for me, Mr. McKay asked a question about outside storage. Are there kitchen equipment or kitchen items or repair items left outside of any structure or?
We have no intention of using the outside to store any equipment.
Okay. Now, I know that since you signed the agreement, you've had an opportunity to do some due diligence with regard to an LSRP and with regard to the environmental condition of the property. Can you give the board a description of, a Cliff Notes description of what that is? And you can get back to the microphone, by the way.
Adding a little bit what Mike Miller had mentioned, I'd retained and engaged a LSRP at some very large expense to do so. But they did do all the monitoring wells, they did all that. And they did see a very good drop in delineation in regards to the benzene, and never seen any elevated levels from the tests that they got. Unfortunately, they did a little bit more than, what's the name of the other? Who was the original? Active. They did not do the whole property. The company that I engaged did the whole property, drilled multiple additional wells. The good news is they didn't really find anything, but unfortunately, they still came up with a substantial number to remediate the property. About 700 cubic yards of material has to be removed. And
I don't know what that looks like. I mean,
it's a lot.
Put it in terms of dump trucks.
Tom, can you help me out there? How many 600 cubic yards? So 18 yards on an average dump truck, and it's 600 to 700 cubic yards of material. So it's quite a few dump trucks.
And when you remove that quantity, I mean, obviously you've got a hole in the ground someplace.
Yes.
You've got to fill it in with.
Yes, it has to be a certified clean fill. So it has to be removed first, and then the clean fill comes in.
Do we know where that area is, more or less, if you use your exhibit?
Oh, yes. It's right here. Here.
Right here being,
Beside, I don't know the directions, but by the service station, this area here, and this area.
so behind and alongside the street next to the service station?
Yes.
In the general area,
Between the house and the service station.
okay. And that's the general area where the tanks had been?
Yes. Now, all the tanks have been removed. There's no in-ground tanks. They've all been removed.
Right. I interrupted you, I'm sorry. Maybe I
Still
didn't.
didn't answer my question.
What's your question? Well, repose your question.
No, he says he's gonna get to it.
All right.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Anything else on the LSRP that you wanted to tell the board?
No. It's currently in a status of, we'll let you know until, I have to get certain things, certain variances approved before I would, execute engaging a situation like that. I still feel that the property has value, even with that type of number, from a remediation standpoint. But right now that they're on, right now they're in a holding situation until I give them further acknowledgement.
With regard to the property presently, what activities are going on the property now?
We are storing and staging equipment. I am in and out of there quite often. I do have quite a bit of my inventory in the buildings right now. I expected this hearing to have happened several months ago. I do have two other locations in Norristown and Pottstown, which I go back and forth as well. What else would you like to know?
You answered his question.
Okay.
I think.
Was there any other?
Yeah.
Is the residential property being used?
No. Not any further.
And I'd probably ask Captain, and I appreciate, your
He's out.
candor, but how they approach it.
Well, they'd like me to speak about. So I'll stand up and speak around the microphone.
Yeah.
So my concern is, I don't know how you're in there. I don't don't know necessarily what it has to necessarily do with your application, but you're already in there. And I don't know, again, I don't know in the grand scheme of things where that, but I'm just curious how they're in there.
So, with that said, which has not been brought up, this property, Mr. Livingston as well as the estate are in violation with me. They have been in violation with me since approximately the beginning of March. We have had several EDAC meetings with Mr. Livingston prior to him moving in. The property is being used in full. I have been in the building, I have witnessed it myself. This is not a proposed use. This building is being used as they are proposing it. And Mr. D'Elia, I apologize in one sense, but I'm not going to hold back as the zoning official.
Do your job, I'll try to do mine.
And I appreciate that. With that being said, in fairness to the applicant, is that they did come forward with the application, and there were many issues with it. It has taken a long time to get to this board, but this has not stopped this business being used. I have seen his worker welding in there. I have seen the trucks that had to be forced off the property. I have seen the gentleman who works for him in the house. So many of the things that are proposed here, including outside storage, everything else, is already there. This place is operating. This is not a proposed use. And if I'm adamant about it, it's because I have had major issues with this. So with respect to everybody, this is not something that the applicant is looking to come to do. He's already doing it here. Whether he has operations other places, that's irrelevant. He's operating here out of Hainesport. I have had issues where I have met Mr. Livingston out on the site for many different things. So this is not something that is, whether it gets approved or not, that's not up to me, nor do I care less either way. That's the board's job to make that decision. But nonetheless, this is a full-blown operation.
You agree, Mr. Livingston?
No, I do not. I don't agree. Is there things happening in the warehouse? Absolutely.
So you're quibbling over the term full-blown operation?
Yes. Full-blown, am I using it for staging and storage? Absolutely. I'm not going to argue the fact that there's things happening in the warehouse.
Like welding?
I don't know about welding. He doesn't even know how to weld, but the point is, there's things that are happening in there. I've got, like I said, about 80%, 90% of my equipment over there. So of course I'm going to be using the facilities as much as I can. I am paying all the real estate taxes, all the insurance in regards to it. So there's a large expense that I've been giving. So it's a situation where I'm not going to argue the fact that I really expected to be in front of this board way back in April, May of this year. Here we are, November now. So it's, doing business in the state of Pennsylvania, I don't have to go through all this. I would have been in business, and I really didn't expect to have this type of an issue, honestly. I really thought I'd be able to open up a simple business. This is not something that's anything near what originally was there. I mean, oil and that type of contaminant, it's dirty, just dirty stuff. So I really didn't think there would even be a question me be able to revitalize this property.
Is the estate being compensated for your using the property now?
They're not, well, the compensation is me keeping up on the property taxes, which is, well, it's about $20,000 a year between the taxes, all the other associated costs.
I just want one more comment, and then I'll try to hold it. So one of the things that we tried to do when properties change hands is not feel sorry for ourselves that we have this horrible property on our hands, but we tried to improve the property, and that's the only opportunity that a municipality has to make any improvements is when the property does change hands, so with that thought in mind, I think your application needs, should be looked at pretty seriously. Is it in fact an improvement over there, not necessarily, saving? I'm just kind of, I know Scott will probably talk about the landscaping plan and a lot of things that are here, but it's gonna take a whole lot of landscaping.
Oh, yes, it's, I've already,
To shield the activity that you're proposing on.
the current sketch, the current sketch.
We understand that but we're buffering against.
I'm sure Scott will do that, but I'm just making a comment about.
No, but
what you're. My wanting to improve, so it's not saving,
Earlier, you recall, I said that I don't know where the line is when you're applying for the variance and the site plan. Buffering and all that stuff, to me, are site plan issues. We have to satisfy the board, we have to satisfy Scott with regard to the buffering that has to be done. And you're correct, it's a lot. And that buffering, whatever it is still going to be a significant improvement over what's there now.
But I can't vote because I'm just an alternate, but I can comment all I want.
No, we appreciate your comments.
The thing is that you're describing the site as, beyond any, as a horrible, that it's, I don't necessarily know if it's all that bad the way it is versus what you're proposing, so I don't know where the fact that if you're already operating there, I don't know, I'm not an attorney, I don't know what that has to do with the case, but I appreciate you being frank about it.
Mr. McKay, I'd also like to comment on the issue of the truck and the boat to the side of the property. I've been here 21 years, and the Wright family has always used that side of the building for the tractor trailer, the boat, and vehicles. It was always part of the family issue. So just to let you know that has been there. It's not anything that has been new, just so I can put that on record. It's not like it showed up yesterday.
No, I appreciate that. I've only lived here since 1973, so it's not as if I don't know what's going on. But, one of the difficulties, I think, with this site is the applicant is correct that this isn't, what he proposes isn't as industrial or as dirty or as intense, perhaps, as the previous oil business. But the use that he intends to put to it, with all the use of storage containers, storage of vehicles, rentals of the house, return of the old gas station into an auto repair business, is still a pretty intense use for this property, which is surrounded by residential neighborhood on 3 sides and a church and other residences on the 4th side. So, I don't know how long the Reifs operated that, but it was a long time ago that that was started, whether it was the 50s or even before the war.
Before.
Probably before the war, looking at the age of the buildings. But our land use criteria and determinations and rules have advanced here in New Jersey. Maybe they haven't in Pennsylvania, but in New Jersey they have. And so, trading a very intense use for another form of intense use, when the use is non-conforming under our current rules, that's a difficult ask. and I'm struggling with it because, as was just said, you know, it's a messy site. It'd be lovely to try to get it cleaned up, to improve the town, to improve it for the neighbors, to clean up the plume of benzene wherever it is headed, if it's headed any place, and, you know, to make the place more palatable to the neighbors who live in the neighborhood. But based upon the evidence that we have right now, it's hard for me to see that you're going to do that.
The catch-22 for me is, and because I was listening to what you were saying, the difficulty with approving what I believe is a significantly less intense, everything's done inside, there's nothing done outside, there's storage, but we can quibble about that. But the other choice is it stays, we don't do this, we don't clean up the property, we have to find some other location, and this property will then be residential. And
That's your testimony?
it's zoned residential.
Right, I'm aware, but your testimony is if the board doesn't approve this, this property will be residential?
The property is zoned residential is what I meant.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to exaggerate that.
I think the argument was that if, and I'm going to be very blunt, the argument was from your client, not you, Mr. Delia, but from your client, that if we don't approve this, it'll sit and deteriorate and become essentially a junkyard because no one else will have the money or desire to do anything with it. And the last thing that's going to happen is that houses are going to be built because no residential builder of a small group of houses is going to have the wherewithal to do the remediation needed. So it's either take our proposal or deal with this environmental problem for however long it lasts.
I think you allocated the responsibility to my client. I have, since I first got this thing, realized that it's zoned residential. But you, Mr. McKay, you know I've represented developers my whole life.
I know.
And, you know, I can tell you,
And I know you're an absolute man of honor, and I take everything that you say with.
I appreciate that. And I thought to myself, how do I explain the risk of not finding a way to make our application work? And the risk is what I've described. I tried so hard to avoid what you just said, make it sound like a threat. It's not a threat. I'm just trying to lay out facts. And I totally believe, again, you know I've represented developers my whole life. And for a residential, I can show this to 50 residential developers, and when they see the LSRP stuff, they're just they got better things to do. It's not gonna work as residential, so you're gonna wind up with some other use because the environmental requirements are significantly less stringent. I wonder if we could take a couple of minutes to let me talk with my experts and just give me a couple of minutes, Mr. Chair.
I'm going to take a 10-minute break?
5 or 10 minutes, I'm not going to take long.
Okay.
Thank you.
Fine. What's that? Yeah, 10-minute break, yes. Very.
Do I pause the meeting? I gotta pause the meeting.
It is. Can't get any
You know
worse.
what gets me is,
They can go in
how
the
did
back.
the town let it happen in the first place? I guess zoning wasn't an issue back 40, 50 years ago. Nobody gave a shit.
That's right.
If you put a warehouse or a gas station
Hi.
next to
Oh,
a
that's
house
the
on the
thing.
thing.
Red deposit slips.
And here we are.
Good, nice to see you. You got this big desk, I don't get a hug.
Yeah, this.
No, no, just
People
kidding.
didn't have the same.
This is the thing that I was talking to you and Ken about.
It'll save them.
If you can, if you see him, give him that, and there's another one in here for you,
You got 50 trucks.
along with the copies of the checks
You got 50 truckloads
for that last deposit.
for commercial. What's residential? How much, what's the difference between
Ken's?
having it able to be built on for residential versus commercial? Like, what's the difference? Do you have to take out extra dirt?
Yeah, I don't know what extra criteria there would be to get a clean bill of health. I guess, I mean, when you think about it, whether it's people living in houses and the risk exposure they have, or the people who work in the commercial business who would be exposed to whatever.
Right.
Why would we have a different set of
Why is it different?
remediation requirements?
Right.
If it's residential versus
I don't know.
commercial? I don't know.
Will Ken be back by then?
Yes, he's gonna come back.
I mean, I don't
And
know.
apparently he's already operating, I didn't know that.
And then you're going from the fire to the frying pan. You're pulling out remediated and dirty soil, and you're putting the same thing that created dirty soil right back to the same spot.
A list of,
You put a gas station in.
No, they're not gonna, it's gonna be a service, it's gonna be a
Still gonna have
automobile
oil.
repair.
Still gonna have oil.
Yeah, that would
Where do they
have,
think
but that
that
wouldn't
benzene
require
comes
underground tanks and stuff like that. would
Yeah,
it?
sure, it's gonna be gasoline, spills, and leakage and everything else over the years.
Would you need gasoline
What's that?
for an auto repair shop? What would you need?
Well, you're gonna have
gas-
cars in there. Say you're replacing a gas tank.
No.
How are you gonna recover that gas? And you're gonna rent it to somebody who doesn't care. So the
Right.
first thing they're gonna do, they gotta pay to get rid of that gas. Or they can just undo that and let it run into the ground. Which one do you think they're gonna do?
Without anybody to watch them, yeah.
Right.
He always has to.
So you're gonna go from the fire to the frying pan.
I mean, what he didn't say is his worst case scenario, which is, I know it's a burden to the township, but eventually, the family's gonna stop paying taxes.
That's right.
And then it'll go into foreclosure, and the township will take the profit. And then you'll have the right to, you'll have to find somebody to remediate, but then now you've got the right to.
Remediate, that the township remediate. You know, aren't we doing that right on Creek and 38, where that candy factory used to be?
I thought that was being done by, well, there are grants and stuff like that they're using, it's not.
Still saying the
Yeah.
same thing.
It would be
You
the
could do
same
it.
thing.
This is a much larger and desirable property.
Than the other one, yeah?
Yeah, you figure that, we could put 8 houses in there, $500,000 each.
You know, so it's not an immediate solution, but eventually the town, you know, it might take another 10 years
we're not on
for it to
Beacon,
happen.
how should,
The home might be there forever, and then you got leakage again.
Right.
You got somebody renting out
So it's
probably
like,
undesirable.
yeah, and yeah, you have somebody who pays taxes, but they're not paying taxes behind it. Well, right now, he's got it up to date, but that'll stop as soon as, you know.
Absolutely.
And, you know, you just sit there and you say, and he said 20,000 each year. And the school pays 20,000.
Peanuts. Peanuts. I don't know. I gotta take a tasty break.
Oh, well. I was hoping to get out of here early.
I just knew the sign was behind you. I was looking to see who it was.
You think they're gonna pull out? Well, I mean, I don't know what they thought they were gonna come here with tonight. You know, he thought he was gonna get his approval. Where?
Thanks.
There's some low. No, the things come up there.
Okay, yeah, I know where that is. All right.
Yeah.
If you need it.
thank you, sweetie.
Sure.
I saw you looking at me from over there smiling.
Is this one?
Yes.
I mean, I think.
Now it's on.
Walkwood. And what do you think? We're already. And then town will have to close. And then fine, it'll take like that property about 2 years. Different mediation. After everybody's done. It's like, you know, but it did finally do something.
All right.
Okay. This is better for
Is this open?
No, but I could open it.
I can't. This hand is dead. Thank you very much.
Not real cold.
No, but it's water. Thanks.
Some of the words that I say is on this speaker.
Yes.
And then you have that's on one house. In the middle, and then the house is built up. Although some of the houses were built up, they didn't all come later.
Given the case.
You could see. Yeah. People didn't think about that. You know, from an environment perspective. Now, here you are. Current century, and it's a big mishmash.
I thought maybe this would be a short meeting tonight.
I was hoping, because my daughter's gonna kill me. I think I better text her. I hope.
When I first went on the board, it was nothing to be here till 1 o'clock. No, not. That's when,
Oh, that's when you came on the board?
What's that?
Where she came on the board when Haynes Sport
Well,
Chase.
I don't know where these folks are.
I don't know where. That was like 92 or something.
Costco? Yeah.
That, of the new developments that was that the first one? Yeah.
Yeah.
Get people seated.
And then Sage Run. And then, I don't know which one, like Big Creek View.
Maybe.
Would everybody please be seated so we can get this meeting moving forward?
Yeah. They were about the same time.
Where did our applicant disappear to?
They're in a room. They're in a room out there.
Oh, are they?
Are they back?
No,
Paula?
there must be.
Oh, I'll get them.
Yeah, their 10 minutes is up. I got a date.
He sure is.
Tom? Great questions you're asking. There are great questions that you're asking. I got involved in this years ago when I worked up.
I sometimes have vegetables. So I'll take this out if I can.
You know how to drive, you got a CDL, right? Look at my sons.
That's right.
Oh, that's smart.
You had to have experience. Oh, really? Yeah, but you can pass that test with your eyes closed.
Don't do that.
Yeah, really. The school bus.
Pull ups.
Okay.
Yeah.
She's just double checking here.
It's like a parade.
It's like a parade of professionals.
Just, US World Report rankings just came out.
Yeah, no comment.
And they're moving up in the football rankings too. Oh, good for you.
Everybody?
Okay, Mr. Delia, it's all yours again.
8:20.
We've had a lot of feedback from the board, from the staff. And we really have to evaluate. I just mentioned to Mr. Kingsbury that I thought the better practice right now would be to have the matter postponed till your December meeting or whenever you can do it, so that we have an opportunity to reevaluate and try to address the concerns and the issues that you folks have raised. So I would ask for that at this time.
Okay, it's your prerogative, and we're here to cooperate. It's going to be disappointing. I don't know if everybody in the audience, I'm assuming a lot of you people are here for this case. Their applicant is requesting through their attorney that it be continued to the December meeting. Now, I realize it's an inconvenience for you, and it's a problem, but you will get an opportunity to raise questions after the applicant has submitted their entire case.
I apologize to them as well. I know that feeling. Anybody who practices law has sat in a courtroom for 4 hours and be told your case is postponed till next month, knows what that feels like. So I do apologize as well, Mr. Chairman. But I think for the sake of I think we're all interested in getting the best result and the right result. And I think I can address a lot of these issues.
Yeah, well, I hope, as you said, you got a lot of information from the board to try to help you with the direction. And I also would like to think that from the standpoint of the folks outside in the audience who have questions to this applicant, we're kind of raising a lot of them and trying to get some answers for them. But we'll give them another opportunity at the next meeting, so.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to grant the council's request for an adjournment. And just can we
Date and time.
Yeah, I don't know what the December calendar looks like, though.
I don't know if the board wants to make a decision. I do have a backlog of cases that have been put on hold and really need to get to the board. So he has stated that December or January, so I don't know if that's possible.
Well, the problem is if we make an announcement tonight that it's December whatever at 6:30, we don't have to go through the cost and expense of another
I understand
publication
that.
notice.
I was making
And
that
that's the only reason I was asking for a specific date.
Well, I think the question, this motion, or this application has been carried several times, as you pointed out.
Correct.
And I think that has, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that has resulted in a bit of a backlog of other people trying to get space on the calendar. So you got to give those other...
I only got on one, so if my recollection is correct, I only got on one agenda, and a couple of days before I had to postpone it. Again, I know you have calendar issues. You and I have talked about it 100 times. And, I don't want to be insensitive to it. I know the feeling.
Well, you said December or January. If I made the motion for January, that would be January the...
3rd, I believe it is.
First, I don't have my calendar on.
Third.
January 3rd at 6:30.
Correct.
Isn't that the review of
Do you have,
Would
do I
that
have
be your
consent? Do we
meeting?
have consent?
Reorg's
Oh, yeah,
before.
regular.
Oh, it's 6.
Oh, you do them in separate meetings?
Before we, excuse me, before we pick the date, we've got the reorganization meeting.
Let me go get my,
Would that'd be at 6, right?
I don't know.
oh.
Well, what we've done it the last couple of years, it's been at
Or
6:30.
6:37.
And, well, the reorg's at 6:30 immediately.
Immediate, yeah, that's what I'm getting at.
So you make it 7.
What,
Yeah.
First case, which one is
Oh, 10.
Rosenthal?
Rosenthal?
They're here
That's
by
what
quarter
it is.
7, and they're not going to be
That's
Yeah.
the back.
Get in on December?
Counselor, just bear with us for a second.
No, that's
I don't
all right.
want to give the wrong time, okay?
We also have a carryover of Rosenthal that was supposed to originally be on for this meeting, but wasn't able to.
Park Road?
We have Arc Road, the school. What?
Is that Park
Yeah,
Road?
Foster Town Home Farms, I think
Or-
it's another one we have on. And then I have 2 small residential ones.
And what's on the January 3rd, you said it is the Wednesday?
It's the January meeting.
Okay, now,
And
that
on
meeting,
December 6th.
that's our reorganization meeting also.
Yes, but that's in the very beginning.
No, but I
Start
just,
again.
I want to make sure if we're going to put a date and time,
Mhm.
that we're giving them a realistic time.
If you use the January meeting, I would say at 6:30, that's when our reorg
Yeah.
starts, and we're going to immediately follow, which usually is 10 to 15 minutes.
Right, okay.
Yeah, if you make the announcement in that manner, it's 6:30 on whatever the date. First thing, if I were the fifth item on the agenda, you'd still publish and notice for 6:30. Same thing. 6:30 on whatever date, immediately following the reorganization, whatever.
Yeah.
And that's the announcement that
Okay, that's what I just wanted to
Yeah.
get clarified, okay?
All
So
right.
is that how you want?
So the motion is that there's consent by the applicant to continue this until the first meeting of the new year on January 3.
At 6:30.
Following the reorganization meeting at 6:30.
Correct.
Okay. I have a second on that?
I'll second that.
Okay, any questions on the motion? May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. McKay?
Yes.
Mrs. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Chakotchi?
Yes.
Mrs. Baggio?
Yes.
Mrs. Tyndale?
Yes.
Ms. Casco?
Yes.
And Mr. Kroll-Pfeiffer?
Yes.
Yeah.
I have 2
Okay.
comments on that. I want to make sure the members of the audience understand that they're not going to get a new notice in the mail. This is the notice. And secondly, Mr. Delia, will you send me a letter agreeing to extend the time limit?
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Good, okay.
Good evening.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Can we just wait 1 second, Mr. Kroll-Pfeiffer? Ms. Casco just went to go get the mayor and Ms. Gilmore.
Yep. I didn't hear what she said.
There's some people that are sitting on the boards that are back.
Yeah, well, I guess the place is going to clear out.
Can I ask a question
No.
about pilot? Can I ask you a question real quick?
I was busting the chops, but yeah, go ahead. I just wanted to put the mic on mute.
What that's going to serve.
Hey, welcome back.
Hey.
me.
Right. Where were you?
Out there waiting.
Oh, you're out in the peanut gallery.
Back.
Did it do that again?
What? Wait, oh, okay, sorry.
I don't like spending money, but
I don't care till you probably get $25
No,
for a chair, a used chair.
yeah,
He testified that they're paying.
Come on, let's get this meeting going.
better chance you can.
Sorry.
We're outside.
A lot of good stuff with that.
Okay, the next order of business, so we have meeting minutes from July and August. I need a motion, two separate motions, right?
Yes.
A motion to accept and file the minutes of the July 13th, 2023 meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
second.
Okay, motion and a second. We have any questions on the motion? Hearing none, we have a roll call, please.
Ms. Cosco?
Yes.
Mrs. Kelly?
Yes.
Mayor Klaus?
Yes.
Mr. McKay?
Yes.
Mrs. Gilmore?
Yes.
Mr. Chakotchi?
Yes.
And Mrs. Baggio?
Yes.
I don't get to vote?
No, you weren't here.
Oh, you're right. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Okay, minutes of the meeting of August 2nd, 2023.
I'll make a motion. Is that you?
Yes, you are.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of. Second.
Okay, any questions
Kelly
on the
wasn't
motion?
here.
Oh, I wasn't here,
No.
okay.
You go good?
Somebody else has to second.
I can't
I'll
second
second
it
it.
either.
Mr. Chakotchi, you weren't here either.
Second.
Perfect.
Mrs. Gilmore can.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mrs. Baggio?
Yes.
Mrs. Gilmore?
Yes.
Mr. McKay?
Yes.
Mrs. Tyndale?
Yes.
And Ms. Cosco?
Yes.
Okay, next we have resolutions 2023-16, granting a use variance, bulk variance, final site plan approval. You have it's number 16, and this pertains to ARC of Burlington County.
Correct.
Need a motion and a second to approve the resolution.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2023-16.
I'll second.
Okay, any questions on the motion? Hearing none, we have a roll call, please.
Mrs. Tyndale?
Yes.
Mrs. Baggio?
Yes.
Mr. McKay?
Yes.
Mrs. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Chakotchi?
Yes.
Ms. Cosco?
Yes.
And Mr. Krollpfeiffer?
Yes. Resolution 2317, granting final major, where is it? Subdivision approval for 45 townhouses, 4 single-family lots. This is also known as Longbridge Farms LLC. Need a motion and a second on that resolution.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Any questions on the motion? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Gilmore?
Yes.
Mrs. Baggio?
Yes.
Mayor Klaus?
Yes.
Mr. McKay?
Yes.
Mrs. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Chakotchi?
Yes.
Mrs. Tyndale?
Yes.
Ms. Cosco?
Yes.
And Mr. Krollpfeiffer?
Yes. Last resolution is 2023-18, adopting the finding and recommendations to the Hainesport Township Committee regarding the Haynes Mobile Park Rehabilitation Area. Need a motion and a second.
I'll motion.
Second.
Any questions on the motion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Cosco?
Yes.
Mrs. Gilmore?
Yes.
Mayor Klaus?
Yes.
Mr. McKay?
Yes.
Mrs. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Chakotchi?
Yes.
Mrs. Baggio?
Yes.
Mrs. Tyndale?
Yes.
Mr. Krollpfeiffer?
Yes. Next, we have several items of correspondence, 6 to be exact. Need a motion and a second to accept and file the correspondence.
I have a question.
On this,
Yes.
I'll get there.
Okay,
It's on the correspondence.
But you have to make a motion first.
We're going to get there.
Oh, sorry.
I will specifically get.
I make a
I
motion that
understand
we
now.
accept the correspondence and file it.
Okay, we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any questions on the motion?
Sorry.
It's okay.
All right, so here's my question. So on this, that we got for the Township of Hainesport Resolution 2023-114-10, it's the one with the financial agreement for the, hold on. The Hainesport Family Apartments, 72-unit multifamily housing project. So it says that this is with a pilot. So whenever we have a pilot for the town, this one says here, it's provided that the payments in lieu of taxes for municipal services. So when there's a pilot that's issued, is that when they make that money to the township, is it only for the township and none of that money goes to the schools then? Is that how a pilot works?
I believe all pilots, this is different because this is for residential, 95% is municipal, 5% is county. And this is a standard pilot for affordable housing, which is done across the board. Davenport has one as well.
Okay, so then the people that live in this development that is proposed to be built, they don't pay property taxes then? Is that how it works?
They are paying in lieu of property taxes. They're paying directly to the municipality 95% of whatever that pilot agreement is, which is a standard calculation.
Okay, but none of that money goes to the school district?
Correct.
I think the landlord pays the tax, I don't think the tenants pay, right?
Right.
Right, this is the owner, the property owner,
The property owner pays the taxes.
Pays what taxes?
pays the pilot.
Whatever taxes.
The pilot, but that's the pilot, so,
Right.
yeah, so if the landlord pays that, it's the payment in lieu of taxes, so they're making that payment to the municipal, but they're not paying any school tax then.
That's how they make it affordable, unfortunately. That's the way it's done.
So where's the money supposed to come from for the school district then, when they get more kids?
Taxpayers.
Us,
This
you.
was not voluntary.
As well as state aid and as well as through state aid.
So then when we're giving pilots to, like, the warehouses, it's the same thing? So there's no money that's going to the school district?
Right, but
either?
the argument is that warehouses don't produce kids, therefore there's no direct impact on the school district.
But couldn't we be getting more money for our school district, which would lower our taxes then? If we didn't do a pilot?
They tax independently. There's no kid, I mean, the argument is there's no school children added with a warehouse.
Well, I
In this case,
understand
you're
that.
right, there's children added, but
Right.
unfortunately, it's not something the town volunteered to want to do.
Right.
It was a court order.
But on the
Well, I
flip side, you
understand.
can also argue that the more businesses you bring into the municipality, it adds to the pool of taxes, therefore it lowers your residential taxes.
But when we build warehouses, we're bringing businesses, and then we're
Mhm.
giving them pilots, so that's not bringing more business, that we're getting more for the school district.
So the land's taxed at the same rate, right, Paula?
Yes.
Correct.
The land is still taxed at the same rate, and they pay the normal
Right.
tax.
And the land improvement goes up because it's no longer vacant.
So it's two separate taxes.
Yes.
And the only other thing I would add to that is, this is for a 100% affordable rental community. This allows them to qualify for outside money as part of that to help fund it. As the board knows, the town has a court mandated and constitutional obligation to provide for affordable housing. That's what we have to do. This is one mechanism to do a pilot and allow 100% affordable product to be constructed. The other way would be to zone, to get the same credit of 72 units of affordable housing at a 20% set aside. The town could rezone another property for 350 units with a 20% set aside.
Of
So
affordable.
while there is not a great tax issue with this, the tax issue of rezoning for an inclusionary project can also have much larger tax implications and school.
And school implications.
Sort of like you see.
And land implications.
Well, yeah, I
And resources.
understand what you're saying, so I guess my question is then why do we give warehouses pilot?
Okay.
So.
Jill, if you'd like to have a
Is
conversation
that-
outside of the correspondence that's before you, then I could be more than happy to have that conversation with you.
All right, because it said municipal in the, all right. Go ahead, I'm done.
Okay, thank you. May we have a roll call, please, on the motion?
Mrs. Kelly?
Yes.
Mrs. Gilmore?
Yes.
Mayor Klaus?
Yes.
Mr. McKay?
What's the motion?
Nice.
Yes.
Accept correspondence.
Mr. Cochi?
Yes.
Mrs.
Yeah.
Baggio? Mr. Baggio?
Yes.
Mrs. Tindall?
Yes.
Ms. Pasco?
Yes.
Mr. Crowley?
Yes. Professional comments. You made yours already, okay.
I just have a quick comment on Beacon of Hope. Two things. I don't know this for a fact, but I have been informed that Beacon of Hope is no longer under contract to buy that property that they were interested in. What impact that will have on the litigation is yet to be determined. And the attorney who's handling the defense on behalf of the township has made an application to the court to dismiss certain aspects of the complaint. And that has not yet been decided by the judge, but I may have more information for you at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Taylor?
Just go Phillies.
Eagles.
Not nice. Not nice.
That's what you meant, right? Mr. Miller?
I just want to comment on the last application. They're coming in here, they have a plan, a picture of the existing conditions, which effectively fills up the lot. They're going to go back and huddle up and see what else they can do, or whatever they can represent to the board. I'm going to call Bill, their engineer, and just let him know that when you come back to us with the site plan, and particularly for me, that I'm going to be looking for some stormwater management, and they're going to have to fit that in there somewhere. So I just want them to, I'm sure they're aware, I'm sure Bill's aware, I want that group to understand that even if you approved everything in there, it doesn't fit.
Okay. And you're going to talk to them about it, right?
I'll talk to Bill.
Okay. All right. Any board comments?
I'd just like to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, same to you.
Likewise.
Oh,
You have a comment? No comment? Okay.
I just want to tell everybody, we got an election coming up. Please exercise your right to vote. It's very important. Make your voice be heard.
Thank you, sir. Okay, public comments. Okay, please come forward. Mr. Kingsbury will swear you in. Please state your name.
But you can't talk about. We do public comments after. Tonight and postpone it, if that's what you're planning to do.
No.
Okay. Go ahead. You don't need to be sworn.
Okay, great.
Sorry.
Hi, my name is Aaliyah Bucks. I live at 53 Lenox Drive, which is on the corner of Lenox and Bancroft, right behind the Diamond Diner. My property backs up to Quaker Court, I guess it is, the
new property?
The new, yes. So I am curious as to when the trees are going to be planted that should have been replaced. With, I guess, my understanding with our township code is any tree that's measured more than an 8-inch diameter has to be replaced, that's removed, has to be replaced with one that's at least 3 inches. So I'm just wondering when that's going to happen.
So I can reply back to the board. The board approved that plan a couple of years ago. They are still in the process of completing their punch list inspections. So we can, I don't have the information in front of me this evening, but we can look into that and report back to the board at the next meeting.
Okay.
Okay, so I guess, is there a certain time frame that that's supposed to be done before they're, I guess,
Well, before any of the
released?
bonds are released and the project is fully signed off on by the township engineer and the township, all the plantings, all the sidewalks, all of those site improvements have to be completed that were shown on the approved plans.
Okay, so I guess, I'm assuming that then there was whatever assessment that had to have been done on the property before it was bulldozed on the amount of trees.
I don't recall on that project because that was actually an amendment of a prior approval. So I'll look into it.
Okay. I recall that for, obviously, you guys were on the board back way when it was still commercial, when Mr. Tran had done his proposal. If I'm not mistaken, I know that there was that environmental assessment done as far as what had to be replaced. So, thank you. My other question, Ms. Tyndale, you raised a kind of an interesting point with the pilot. It's my understanding that when a development comes in, a certain amount of homes need to be allocated towards affordable housing. And I guess they can sort of, not work around that, but they can basically buy into COA to sort of invest that money. It sits, I guess, in an escrow, in a trust, whatever. How does that work with what you mentioned as far as it being a pilot? That you have this money, I guess I'm not understanding that. So other developers that paid this COA money goes into the affordable housing how?
So it's any new development, whether it's residential or commercial, they have a COA obligation, and I
Right.
believe it's 2.5%, on residential, 1.5% on commercial? No, 2.5. 2.5? Okay, flip-flop, sorry about that. It goes into a trust fund, and the law mandates that it has to be used for affordable housing projects, for various mechanisms to move your affordable housing obligations forward, whether it's professional fees, actual developments, contributing towards affordable housing obligations, offsetting developer costs to help them meet the threshold for when they're applying for that, the extra funding from the state, HMFA, things like that.
Okay, so just to make sure that I'm understanding, so then that COA money, the developer who wants to come in and develop the apartment, build the apartments, they get money from,
So generally, the 100% affordable housings, yes, they get pilot agreements for their projects.
So is a pilot agreement, is that something that's, I know you said it's kind of standard, is that something that's negotiable on our part?
There's statutory obligation, statutory calculation that's used for that pilot.
Okay, so
exactly
developer-
what Davenport, the pilot for Davenport is the same as this project.
Okay, so the developer gets to come in, they get presumably a big chunk of it paid for by previous developers. We're going to have an influx of kids to the school with no additional funds going to the school. So can the school in turn ask the township for more money?
I think the
No.
town received money from the town. I think they got a $100,000 check this year, if I'm not mistaken. I think the town's been.
Right, but the.
Municipality has been pretty generous.
Well, no, I'm just,
But the pilot is a small portion of what the ad valorem tax rate would be. So if the school needs tax dollars, then they tax. It's not, they don't have revenues that help offset their expenditures. They tax whatever they need in order to meet their obligations.
okay.
This is the law.
It was just very interesting to me, because, again, I didn't realize that in addition to the affordable housing and the COA money that they get, that they're also, and I don't want to say entitled, that's probably not the right word, but they're also offered a pilot, which, so I know, like, with commercial, in lieu of taxes, they pay, let's say, $100,000 a year, right? And none of that money can go towards school?
Oh, it can.
It can.
This governing body has worked with this school district to provide funding for capital projects, absolutely.
Okay.
But that's municipality dependent. Every town is different.
Right. So then theoretically, this same town council, whether it's joint land use or council or whoever it is.
Committee.
The committee, okay. I wasn't sure if it was the land use or the
None of
actual township
these
committee.
mechanisms
Okay.
are done through the land use board.
So then the committee can turn around then and allocate some of those pilot funds to offset however 72 apartments and the potential children that will be coming into the district.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
We've done that twice, once each.
Okay.
We've added, taken pilot money and given it to the schools.
And the school does get,
That's
I
very
mean, the
interesting.
school will get increased aid as well for, it's also student dependent, the numbers.
Okay.
So the aid will go up.
Did you have a question for me?
No, I was just going to make a statement.
Okay.
Excellent question, and thank you for bringing it to us, and thank Mrs. McCosco for giving the answer.
You're
We all
you're
learned.
welcome.
Ali, if you don't mind, we.
Go ahead, Bruce.
The committees work really hand in hand with the school, and I think everybody knows school enrollment's down right now. And I think Mr. Corn said they could absorb 100, 150 children, right? The
Okay.
last time they spoke without any,
And you may be right. Like I said, it was just very interesting because it's something that,
school taxes have been very sort of flat over the last few years
Hmm.
because of the enrollment.
I have all those numbers. If you ever want to give me a call,
Yeah,
we can- I can
I was curious.
give you more, like, information, get a little bit more into the weeds about it, but you can always give me a call. We can talk.
Okay. And then to my actual original question, how do I find the answer out to that? Like, how do I get that answer?
So actually, what you can do is, they give you around for 5 more minutes.
Sure.
I will give you my business card.
Okay.
I will look into that answer.
Okey-doke.
And I will, you can email me your information, and then I'll get back to you directly.
Okay, great.
All right?
Thank you much.
Thank you. Any other questions from the public? Yes, ma'am, please come forward. Do we have anybody online
Yes,
that has questions?
there are 3 residents online.
All right, come on up, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Eileen Dixie, 120 Mason Woods Lane. I'm just here about the affordable housing on Creek Road. Last committee meeting, Anna Evans she rejected it on the basis that she didn't think it was really fitting to put 3-story apartment buildings in that space. So we're really hoping that maybe you will consider looking at this to be a 2-story apartment building and then putting the other, the extras in other communities, because it's just really the wrong place to put 72 units, 3-story buildings.
Okay, just for the benefit of everybody hearing, your question has to do with that proposed
The proposed, yes.
property on Creek
Creek
Road?
Road, yeah.
Before the railroad crossing and
Yes.
so forth?
Yeah. It's like putting 72 units on 4 acres of land, I think, because it's about that, because it's a lot of wetlands, and it looks like it's just a portion of the 10 acres that it's going to go on. Also, they did an environmental study, and I think it was probably done in the heart of winter, because we got a variance back 5 years ago. They wanted to do an environmental study in December. So I would hope that if this does move forward, that they would do an environmental study in July or August to really see what's happening. And also a traffic study. If there's, I've heard stories that some things are going to change on that road, but I think that they should do a traffic study.
Okay, thank you. I just out of curiosity, Mrs. Newcomb, is there anything pending right now that you know of, or?
No.
Nothing?
Can I make a correction? Anna Evans did originally approve the funding for the affordable housing.
Right.
It was the increased funding that was requested that she turned down. She wasn't turning down the affordable housing, just the
No,
increase.
no,
That's what
not
she-
that-
I'm
no,
just
she was-
correcting.
right.
Right,
Yes.
there was a question about increased funding required
Oh, okay.
above and
yeah.
beyond that she turned down.
Right, but I thought she,
That resolution's in our correspondence. That resolution that you're referring to is in our correspondence.
yeah, I thought she was just saying that she thought it should be 2 stories. And I think everybody probably agrees. If you lived in that community, you would think it should be 2 stories. Putting 3-story apartment buildings on a very small road in town, and there's like 1-story homes right down the street from it, and then you're going to be putting these giant buildings in this really small part of town. So I know it's it is what it is.
I would
All right.
suggest you keep your eyes on the agenda for the Joint Land Use Board, and when that one comes up, come on in and voice your opinion for everybody again.
Okay, all right.
Okay, but thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody online have questions? Under public comment? Okay. Could you state your name and address, please, and your question?
Steve Parr, yes, Steve Parr, 119 Mason Woods Lane.
Okay.
I know at the normal township committee meeting I think we had last time, that it was brought up that you were planning on meeting with the county to talk about the increase in traffic that was going to come from Creek Road onto Martin Highway and how that was going to possibly be remediated. I know one alternative Paula had mentioned was going through the industrial park, but that, you know, and going through that way on the Martin Highway, but that was not an option. So I was wondering, have you talked to the county yet about what that would look like as far as all that traffic going out onto Martin Highway?
No, we've not. We do plan on setting up another meeting with the county, but that has not happened. Probably will be within the next month or two.
That's Mrs. Costco responding to your inquiry or your comment.
I do have crash data reports, though, from the state police. I did have them pull that data. I do have that in my office. I have it as well for Hainesport Mount Laurel Road and Martin Highway. So I do have some information on that intersection, but in terms of having a subsequent meeting with the county, that's coming up soon, hopefully. Well, I haven't called yet to coordinate it.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Any other comments from anybody online? Any comments from the public in the audience? Hearing none, I close public comment. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Sorry, come on up.
Mary Ellen Martin, 111 Weatherhill Court. Again, my question is on the affordable housing. I know they said there was going to be a traffic study, and you said to watch the next couple meetings. Do we have any idea, like, when that might be?
The traffic study?
Traffic study?
That is something that the developer would be tasked to do. So
Okay,
that
that's
would
from the developer?
That would be around the time of site application, which we don't have anything.
Okay, all right. And the option to put the entrance onto Marne Highway, is that still a consideration anywhere? It's not.
No, so it wasn't directly onto Marne Highway. That was never an option. It was to actually cut through the rear of the development through the industrial park.
Right.
That's not the, no.
No, it's not an
No,
option.
we had a meeting with the owner, and there is some stormwater infrastructure along that area, and I believe septic as well.
Okay, all right. So I'm sure I can speak for most of the residents in our development. It's still the concern is the traffic out on Creek Road. Just to reiterate, some of our other residents here, very small road with that much traffic of all those people, so. All right, so I'll just continue to watch for the next couple months for the meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Hearing none, I will close public comment. We have time for adjournment. Need a motion and a second.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Done. Good night, folks. Thank you.
I seen you.
On the other side. Oh, it is. Where was the one lady from?
The last one, I don't know.
No, the lady that was across the street from Ravicki. Oh, Whittier.
That's McKay Street. I
The
didn't get what
lady that
address she
came up
was.
and, oh.
Yeah, I didn't get her.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Everybody's away, everybody. I didn't get what you're saying.